All right, all right, all right, all right. Welcome to the Evening People Show. I am your host, Martin Matthews. One of my sisters is messaging me saying, "You have people waiting, dude. Who shall style up them kind of ways?" Hi, everybody. I have a show lined up for you today. I can't wait to talk to Calvin Harris, my guest. In fact, I'm jumping the gun here. You see how excited I am? And I never get excited like this. So I'm going to dial it back. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Evening People Show. I'm your host, Martin Matthews. If this is your first time visiting the Evening People Show, I thank you so much. Thank you for checking in again. Whether you are joining us via Facebook Live or YouTube, I welcome you. If you are joining via YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe and share so that we can build this thing up like we're trying to build it up. On this show, we talk to old friends, new friends. We catch up with a lot of people, but we always keep things positive. We always have a good vibe with what we're doing. And we always read some poetry because apparently I'm a poet. Who knew? I also have a book called Love, Life, Confrontation, Expressions. It's visible back there. If you're in Jamaica, it is in Fontana Pharmacies. If you are anywhere else, it is on Amazon.com. It is called Love, Life, Confrontation, Expressions, Selections from the Chronicles of a Black Man. Okay, now that that's out the way, my guest tonight is none other than Calvin Harris, aka the Pope. And I can't wait for him to tell you all about that. He is currently the principal at Marlie Mount Primary and Infant. He's been a teacher since '96. He's in the past has acted as vice principal. He is a guidance counselor. The man is even the president of his neighborhood watch. And I bet he can cook. And he's a husband and with children. You see, I don't know. One question I have to ask him is, how do you find time to do all these things, right? I can barely juggle work and this show. And he has all these things. Anywho, my guest is Calvin Harris. And without any further dilly-dally, I'm going to invite him in. I haven't seen him in many, many moons. Sir Harris.
Hi, how are you doing, Martin?
It is lovely to see you, sir.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Here's what I'm going to do straight out the gate. I'm going to make an executive decision. I'm a historian. Back in the day, some folks, in a foreign land sat down with a map of Africa like I have on my shirt here. Yeah. And divided it up and said this was for that person, that was for that person. They didn't ask any of us, but they did it. So my executive decision that I'm going to make today is I'm going to knight the Sir Calvin Harris.
Oh my goodness. I'm honored.
As of now, going forward,
to be knighted by my president at the Michael would have meant something. Thank you, sir.
I knight thee, Sir Harris. Sir Harris of Kingston, Jamaica, sir. All right, let's do a few things here. I have some comments coming in fast and furious. Let's get caught up with those. I have Kamei Hunter sending us much love as a past and classmate and friend. I have we have Luis checking in. Kamei, tell us where you are. Luis, you told me what state you're in, and me forget. Who is this? Jamelia Valentine. What a name, pretty. Thanks for checking in, my dear.
Teachers.
Calvin. Yes, Calvin is a good man here. We have Frederick Latry. Greetings, Sir Frederick, another principal. And Frederick was the first guest I had on the show. We represented well. Greetings, Mr. Latry. That's Jamaica in the house. New York is in the house with Kadia Bocha. Colorado is in the house, is where Kame is. California is in the house with Luis. All right, so we got a couple of countries. We have several cities, and we have our guest, Mr. Harris. Now, Mr. Harris, we met at the Michael.
Yes.
We met at the Michael many moons ago. We won't say how long. I didn't see you between that time and our reunion 20 years later, right? I know finally here I was elected president. You were elected the Pope. Now,
Yes.
for those who may not know what that is, being elected the Pope, or even when I made the flyer for the show, I said, you know, the principal, the pastor, the Pope. What Pope? Now, tell us about that role. For those who don't know, tell us about that role of the Pope, what that was, and what role it plays in the student body.
Well, as you know, the Pope is a significant position. It's not one of those elected positions. You're interviewed for that position because what in our day, and even now, I think it represented the spiritual conscience of the college. That's the term that we use.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the Pope would be a part of the student council, providing that spiritual guidance, quote unquote, spiritual guidance. But
Right.
the truth of the fact is, the Pope's responsibility was in charge of all different Christian fraternities at the college. So UCCF, UCAM, the Baptist fraternity, all of those would have been under the responsibility of the Pope to ensure that all the lobbies things that they're lobbying for would have been heard. And I think one of the things that I remember most of all is that devotions at the Michael Assembly, devotions, Pope responsibility. So most of the mornings, I would have been a part of the general devotion before we start the week. So that's basically it.
I think it was a vital role.
But it was a very significant role. I think it was a part of my transformation. I remembered at that time that I think I was assistant Pope first, the second year, and then, of course, third year, the college Pope. And a lot of things that happened. I think one of the things we did was a feeding program that we started through the UCCF at that time, and so on. So it was a good experience for me.
Yes, and I think in a campus full of people that are late teens, early 20s, most of them hormones raging out of control, they need a Pope. They need somebody to rein them in just a little bit, yeah?
Oh yes.
And like I said, they always distinguish. That's why I knight you, Sir Harris, because from that time, in my opinion, you always had yourself about you. You always had this thing about you. You were just never ever just one of the other guys. You know what I mean? I think we called you we called you Sir Harris from that time. I probably called you Sir Harris because that's just how you came about. That's just how you came off. I respect it. Now, 20 years later, we met up at the reunion. You filled in the capacity even on that day as the Pope in some of the things that you did that day. But at that time, you were now Calvin, the principal of Marlie Mount Primary and Infant. Now, give us a step by step here. Walk us through Calvin the Pope becoming Calvin the principal.
All right. It is very interesting. I probably would start off by saying my going to Michael would have started out my pre-trained teaching at Mount Nebo. Very young at the time, and I was steadfast in becoming a pastor. So what was my, and you would have remembered my first year. Person would have the first week, the end of the first week, when we had our grub concert. And at that point, person recognized that he had that little gift of preaching. So I went to college, did teaching, went back to my community, and after a while, decided that I wanted to make a transition into counseling because of the needs that I saw. I recognized that one of the concerns is that our students needed, in order for them to perform, there were some other aspects, and then the most of the effective part of them that would have been a challenge. And so I did guidance and counseling. At the end of that, I applied here at Marlie Primary, came here and served for 5 years. During that period, though, you have some persons who I probably would start off by saying, I remember even when I started as a pre-trained teacher, my first year was teaching grade 3, and we would call it Marlie and the children at grade 3. But at the end of the first year, my then principal, Miss Headlam, Maxine Headlam, decided that she'd send me to grade 5. A young man just leaving college, leaving high school, taught grade 3, and I was sent to grade 5 to teach a set of students preparation for common entrance examination. That year, we sent up about 20, they were in grade 5, about 25 or 26 students. And of that 26 students, 20 of them passed for high school and grade. History, the principal always talked about the fact that we mash up school the next year because she didn't have any grade 6 that next year. But at that point, she insisted that I have to go to college. So she was the person behind it saying, you have to go to Michael.
So that's why I was going to ask you about it, because we met in college in 98.
Yes, right.
You list your teaching career started in 96.
Yes, exactly. Because I started as a pre-trained teacher, right? But my mentor, I call her my mentor, Miss Headlam, was very instrumental in my going to college. And I think it's when I reached college at Michael that he recognized that there are certain qualities that you have, leadership qualities and your ability to do things that you thought you never could have done, and so on. But when I was at college, you would remember that I not just Pope. I used to be called pastor and preacher and that type of thing. I also remember that I think when I became Pope, I usually have a little, right at the cafeteria, I put up a little sign from the preacher's desk with spiritual nuggets for the week every Monday morning religiously, and then together around it and so on. Well, on my way towards pastoral ministry, I don't know, segued into education. I'm still here and so on. But as I was saying to you before, I did guidance and counseling, came here to Marlie 5 years. And while I was here, some persons kind of speak some things into your life. They see things that are happening. I remember an education officer saw me once and she called me over. She came to the school to visit and called me over and said, "You are the counselor here." And I said, "Yeah." She said, "I see a little principal in you." That's even before I started thinking about being a principal. I was just guidance counselor. And of course, the board chairman also, at that time, spoke of it. And then, of course, the principal endorsed it. From then on, my mindset was on leadership. And so I applied for the post of vice principal, worked as vice principal for 2 years. And then the position came for principal. I applied, and here I am now.
Naturally, you were the right pick.
Yes.
That's good. But Kevin, it is so interesting though. Like you mentioned, people speaking things into your life, people seeing you for seeing you once, and just seeing you how you operate. I was saying something to my daughter today. Actually, we were in a car, and I was saying to her, it's so interesting to see sometimes you run into people, and because of how the people around them are, they view you so very differently. You're not doing anything in your eyes. You're not doing anything special. You're just being you. Exactly. But because of how persons around them are, they see you, and you're almost like this breath of fresh air, just being yourself. And people can perceive that, and that can definitely help you into getting to where you're trying to get to as well. Now, what would you say with all the roles that you've filled? What is the most fulfilling role you've held in your career, and what made that role the most fulfilling for you?
Challenging question, because when I think about each of because remember, I was teacher, classroom teacher, So I would have been, I've been the gamut of the education system, except outside of the outside of schooling. But I was a classroom teacher, very effective, guidance counselor, vice principal, and principal. And each of those have their own different tenets. Something you accentuate, something that you celebrate, and so on. As a classroom teacher, I remember the impact, and I know the impact that I have on students that I've taught. And presently, I have at this school one of my very good teachers who was a student in that batch that graduated when I taught grade 5, and she passed her common entrance.
Wow.
And she did extremely well here, and so on. But I think in the role as principal, it is significant because you have become, because I have recognized it as a principal, an effective principal, and a transformational leader, you can effect change. And I think that is what is really what is a top part of my career, and the icing on my career, really. The fact that you are able to impact on others in a significant way. So as a principal, you're able to touch people's life, not just the students, but the teachers, and of course, the parents and the wider community.
I think it's the opportunity. I think it's just because you have the opportunity at that level to do more. You do everything that you're allowed to do at a level. It's just that when you're at another level, you're allowed to do more. And I want to really quickly just say thanks and greetings to everyone that has checked in. We have Atlanta in the house. I think I saw Carolinas. I will try to get caught up here in a minute. But yes, I appreciate everybody checking in. Thank y'all for joining. I'm going to allow Mr. Harris to keep going because I'm having fun with what he's saying. I will put your comments up on there. And like I said, I appreciate y'all checking in and stay tuned because Mr. Harris not easy. Wait till he come over and I see him true characteristics that I know come out. Wait for it a little bit, right? Now, check this out, Calvin. Now, you, like I was saying, you know, I think you've always had it. It's just because at certain level you're allowed to display it more. Now, what are some of the major contributions that you've made or implemented at your institution in your role of principal or vice principal?
Before I even go there, one of the things that I like about the position, of being principal, is that you're able to see. I think your lens are wider. You know, you have broad lens, and you're able to see on a wider scale what is happening, and you try to effect change. For me, the impact on parents and students and the teachers is significant. And one of the things that leads to success, or my success, I probably use the term my success, is the fact that I'm able to work with persons in a significant way. Let me use, for example, my teachers. It's a wonderful team. There at no point can I say I am where I am without the kind of work, the kind of support that I get from the team that I work with. And it is the kind of relationship that you build with these persons that will cause you to be successful or unsuccessful. And so what I try to do is to make sure I build a good relationship with all the stakeholders, every single person. Out of that, let me use, for example, you know, I think I probably want to share with you my first year that I became principal, September of 2014. That year, in July, when the principal was leaving, there was a tragedy that took place on the school compound. And it was a situation in which there was this thought that there's going to be revenge, and you know, everybody become fearful because of what transpired. I came in at a point when everybody was a little bit afraid of what is going to happen in September, because there was this thought that there's going to be some form of disturbance in September because of what was happening. And I remembered having met with my teachers, with the teachers, and having met with the community. Now, you know, in order for you to do well as a principal, you have to get buy-in from all the stakeholders.
True.
Yeah, you have to get buy-in from the stakeholders. And I think that was one of the things that changed everything. The compassion, you have to lead with compassion. You have to, make sure that you're balancing people's lives along with what is required of them to do.
Balancing firm with fear.
Yes, we have to do that. We have to do that. And so there are several things, Martin, I can speak of. But most recently, we have gotten through JSIP so over $100 million in donation towards the erection of a 10 classroom block. Nice. And of course, improvement at the infant department. A 4 classroom block is being built at the infant department currently, and upgrading the infant department, just over $130 million.
Nice.
But that we celebrate that. But when I think about, if you should look at the school, and when person come to the school and look at the school is always maintained. And this is because of the kind of support that we get from the parents. Most of what is done at this school as relates to infrastructure development is my approaching the parents, asking the parents for the contributions, and they will give. And they give generously. So we build our walls around the perimeter walls on the outside. Those are built. We have established a science, a computer lab. We have expanded the library. We have built classrooms. We have furnished areas. We have built a health and wellness center. We have a science lab as well. And that is from the contribution made by parents.
Even if I didn't know you and know your character, just looking at the comments that are coming in, they're very consistent. Everyone that is coming in, and I can see that some of the persons, based on how they're addressing you, they're persons that you have taught. They're persons that were teachers in your institution. They're persons that you knew from a long time ago. There are several other comments that they're making. Love my principal, like this one here said, love my principal. He's very nice. It's all speaking to how you are able to get the buy-in that this one says, proud of you, sir. Pleasure to have served under your leadership. That's probably a teacher, right? The first one was probably a student. Keith Downer is saying, much love, my brother. I am extremely proud of you. And continue doing an awesome job.
That's my sister Keisha.
Yeah. There you go. And Dwayne Menzi says he's present. Bless up yourself, Mr. Menzi. And Keith and Kadia and Magali. You see, I don't want to butcher nobody's name. I think
that's my Spanish teacher.
There you go. But yes. my point being, though, that everybody comes across the same way, as if they view you in the same way. And like I said, that is the very way I viewed you when we met many moons ago. You represented the same way, and don't look at age older when I saw you 20 years after that. And you before me now, and all the comments coming on the side here now are representing that same thing. And to what you're saying, it's really how you deal with people.
Yes,
it's really how you deal with them.
Yes,
you acknowledge them.
For me, the core to leadership is how you relate with people. You'll have your ups and downs, but at the end of the day, persons must feel that you have their interests at heart. I probably would have, I might have indicated that we have a few comments coming from persons who might have left this institution. And they would have felt so free to come to me to say, Mr. Harris, I think one of them just made a comment there. She came and she said, Mr. Harris, I have to make a decision. I've made an application to go overseas to work. I've gotten through, well, it's in process, but I want to hear what you think. And I'd say, I go weigh the pros and the cons, and I say, what is best for you and your family? Take that and move with that. Because while the teacher was a very, very good teacher, I know that you have to balance family with career. And so I said, you have to do what's best. And I think she appreciated that. And I think I did that with all of my teachers. If a teacher comes and says, sir, this is my situation, and I probably have to go because this is an opportunity has come, I'd always say, please go. Go, you have my blessing.
Right.
So on. The persons that I have seen and I recognize here that they have potential to be outside of Marlie Mount, and I'd say to them, listen, I think there's a bigger space for you out there. Make your application, send them out, and make sure you go out there. Marlie Mount is not your final place.
Right.
So I built that type of relationship with my teachers, and so on. I think that works for me because I believe that as a leader, you should be able to make the leaders themselves. So you have
Yes,
to make it as
yes,
well.
and it's so it's
Yeah.
no, it's so often that I run into that even on in the workplace where you see persons almost like they're hoarding information,
No.
almost like they want to keep the fact that they know this and you don't to themselves, as opposed to teaching you so that you can help yourself to do it. You know what I mean? I remember I was called into a meeting once. One of my supervisors was attempting to give a what we call a write-up to a person, and the guy was irate, he was upset. So I was called. 5 minutes later, the guy left, and the supervisor says to me, he says, Martin, I don't know how you do it. I said, what is it? He said, well, that guy just left now as if he was happy to sign the write-up. But when I was talking to him, I couldn't get him to sign. And it was just a matter of acknowledging the person as a person. You acknowledging the fact that I appreciate the work that you do. However, there's a quality aspect to the work, not just a quantity aspect to it. So though the quantity aspect is good, I also need you to focus on the quality aspect. And just explain it to him. Just explain the why this is happening to him, and make it not come across as this is me with a big stick attempting to beat you for something you did wrong, as opposed to this is an opportunity for you to focus your energies this way, because you will get a better result if you do it that way. And the young man was able to identify that this is what was happening. He took it as such. And once he started looking at it like that, he had no problem signing the paper and walking out of the office. You know what I mean? With the one difference being that now he viewed it as me needing his help, but needing his help in a particular way, as opposed to me scolding him for something he had done.
Yes.
And I think the buy-in that you're getting from the community, because there are a lot of principals out there, there are a lot of past teachers and a lot of past, bosses, so to speak, if they were your teacher, that they don't like their principal. No. And if they presented the principal with the opportunity, with something, an opportunity, the principal is going to think of not wanting to not have a good teacher and tell them to, no, I don't think it's a good idea.
No, that does not happen. that is not something that I keep in my head, because what I will tell you, Martin, and my teachers can vouch to that, they work overtime. I'll send things to them. It's of recent times that I don't send things to them on the weekend. I send things and ask, and they are willing to work. They are set of workers. And I think one of the things that that drives this kind of passion is the fact that there's a clearly articulated vision. You know, from I stepped in the school, I say to the staff, this is what we want. This is where we want to go. And persons would buy into it. So even when it's killing them, sometimes I have to beg them. You know, I sometimes run joke with them, because sometimes I see their husbands, because most of them are females. Right. Sometimes I see their husbands, and sometimes they really don't see me. But I say sometimes they're a bit upset because they are up hours of the night depraving their husbands sometimes just to get the work in, so that school can be up and running. And that is why I credit most of the success at Marlie Mount to the type of team spirit that we have. I have 2 vice principals, well, I've experienced 4 in all now. So I had 2 before that retired, and I have 2 now. And you mentioned they work overtime as well. Nobody wants to want anybody to look bad. And so all of us work together to make sure that the school looks good. And that is one of the things that I think is the cream of my career, is the fact that I have people I can trust, people I can work with. I can get up and leave tomorrow and know that the school is okay, because persons have learned and are willing to take the school to greater heights. And you have to inspire people to work. You have to inspire people to work, inspire people to want more. I have a friend of mine says inspire people to stretch themselves, stretch themselves beyond what they're comfortable with, stretch themselves into what they're capable of, as opposed to what they're comfortable with. And it seems like that seems to be your superpower. I might have to give you a cape. I knighted you earlier. We might have to take it a step further before we're done. People. And you know what I think, Martin? I think one of the things that you might have stormy times, and I think people appreciate you when, as a leader, you might have erred and is willing to say, I'm sorry. You know, not many persons are willing to say, because you're in the leadership role, you're principal, or you're the manager, or you're in charge. and you hurt somebody, you bruise somebody, maybe the wrong way, maybe not intentionally, but you know the person has been hurt, and you are not able to say, I'm sorry. I think that works a lot when you are able to say, listen, I might have said something or I might have done something that might not be in keeping with what should have happened, and I'm sorry. People do appreciate that. And so not that you have to make it often, because after a while it becomes, a routine and person say, well, he's never sorry about what he's doing. But when they appreciate the fact that you can say, I'm sorry, and they like when you celebrate them. So the school has done well. In JCDC, they do well. Celebrate the teacher and don't take all the credit for yourself. So the teacher's name is called and so on. We all celebrate each other. That's the important thing. And we make sure we try to do that. And as a principal, I accommodate that at all times. A person will come in and say, Mr. Harris, I have an idea. I'm ready. I draw a chair immediately. Tell me your idea. And if it's a good idea, say, run with it. My former principal would say, run with it, run with it. And I'm there with you, working with them to make sure and providing the resources that they might need to make sure that that project is off the ground and up and running. I think that is something that persons need to understand as leaders and as managers. That the greatest result is when you can get people to work with you because they trust you and because they know that you have their best interest at heart. And it's not just the institution, but have them in their families. Recent times, we have been affected by the COVID and they're online and they're working hard. Martin, I don't know about any other school, but I can talk about my school. My teachers work hard.
Yeah.
They work overtime and up hours. I have to literally be reining them in at times to tell them that, listen, you are doing too many hours. At times they are up 8 o'clock helping parents and that to the detriment of their own family, their own children, and so on. And these are there are times that I have to say, listen, you have to take care of you.
Yes.
Taking care of you is important. And I keep on pushing for that. I made sure I got persons to come in to talk to them, psychologists to talk to them about how to cope, and not just running the rudiments of how to teach and how to teach online and what you need to do online and that type of thing. You're taking the whole person into consideration.
And it makes a world of difference. It makes a world of difference. World of difference it makes. I had a guy the other night, 2 guys. One of them came in and he was in his probation period and he said, I have to go. My wife was in an accident. I have to leave. And I said to him, you're allowed 1 under 90 days. Go if you have to go. And he left. There was a second young man who called and said his wife is going into premature labor. He has to go, also on probation. Told him the same thing. And the look on their faces when the next day they were able to come back, I actually went and sought them out and asked them, how is your wife?
Yes. No.
The look on their faces, and both of those young men have approached everything with me differently since that time because of that one question. Because I came to you, sought you out and asked you how your significant other was, because that is the reason you left work the last time you were there. And right now I know I can ask, just from that one question, I can ask anything of either of those 2 men and they'll do it.
Get it done. And you get it done. Yes. It's now, relationship. Leadership is about relationship. And it's the same thing with the parents. I tell you, Martin, I think one of the wings beneath my wings is the parents. Well, the children, of course, you know how to treat the parents, you know how to treat the teachers. They are, of course, they're extension to you. You have to treat the children well. But parents, and it's how you are able to meet and talk with parents because they're very supportive. I mean, the last national inspector that we had, our highest score of 5, which is exceptional and excellent, was in the area of stakeholders' involvement. And that spoke to the fact that most of the parents spoke highly of the leadership and the running of the school and the teachers on the whole. You have to get them engaged and involved. And I can ask them for just about anything. I just go on and I say, this is what we want, this is what we are aspiring to get, and this is what we want, and this is the contribution that we need. They usually say, Mr. Harris, love money, but they know where their money going. That type of thing. Mr. Harris, love money. What is it now? Love money, but they see where their money is going. So they've put a lot of funds into the infrastructure and whatever projects we have at school, the parents will do that. And of course, from time to time, they'll call and I'll accommodate them. There are some of them who come and share ideas of their expertise. about what they see happening as it relates to school and teaching and learning, and you make them a part of it. So they will think of ways and suggest ways in which we can improve teaching in our school. And I take them on. I see persons on the street and then they'll stop me and start talking. And I say, how do you find your class? How do you find the teacher? And they will express how they feel. And I do my own investigation. Teacher and I will have one-on-one talk. If the teacher is doing exceptionally well, of course, in the staff meeting, the teacher is celebrated. I said, I went, the parent, and the market, the parent saw me and spoke of this teacher, and the teacher is celebrated there, that type of thing. But the parents are really, really supportive as well of this institution and all the stakeholders around, because we have past students as well and the community, because it's one of those schools that is, Marlie Mount is seen as the school, primary school in Old Harbour, and one of the flagships for Region 6. And my passes are exceptional well here. Students do exceptionally well.
Now you have a philosophy that guides you, Sir Harris. What is that philosophy? And of all the philosophies out there, why is this the one you chose?
But for me, I usually say, don't watch the change, be the change, be that change. And I say that because so many things are happening around us. And if we sit around and look at the change, it might get us all flustered. You should be a change agent. Wherever I go, and I always say that wherever I go, there should be some marks, some imprints. And I don't mean footprints in the sand. I mean, it should be etched into stone.
Yes.
It should be imprinted that I walked this path. And it must be significant in a good way. And that is why I always say to myself, be the change. Whatever it is that I do and wherever it is that I go, there must be some form of change in a positive light. You just go there and say it's a stasis. This is how I found this and I'm going to leave it. There must be some form of addition, something that you can do to make it better. And wherever it is that I go, I should leave it a better place. So you have many others, but for me, I always believe in be the change so that you can leave the place better than you have found it.
And those are sound words to live by. Now, Sir Harris, you wear several hats, like we mentioned: father, husband, principal, pastor, guidance counselor, president of the neighborhood watch. First and foremost, well, two things. Did I miss anything? And how do you manage to juggle all these things in a 24-hour day?
Yeah, well, this is one of the things, Martin, to be honest with you, that I still struggle to manage. And then, to be honest with you, if I'm to be very honest, there are sometimes you do make a little bit of, if you do an assessment and reflection, there are some things that you probably want to do differently. So I'm not sitting here as the perfect person. At one point, I think one of the things for me was this great effort and to see my career going forward, that I think I could have done a lot more. Being a good father, but could be a better father.
Right.
Being a good husband, but could have been a better husband. The things that I would have done now, I should have done then. Things that I'm doing now should have been done then. Was having difficulty in balancing my work with my personal life, and that was something that I struggled with for a long time. And so, if it is that you're going to ask me about my career and ask me about me personally, that is one of the things that I would have said is one of the weaknesses I had, how to manage my time effectively. Because I was involved in church, so I have to preach. Because I'm also the deacon of my church, so I preach at my church. I'm a lay preacher, so I preach around as well. Neighborhood watch, I'm school principal, and of course, I used to be at school almost every single day. And so I use this to probably say in a serious way, though, that being a leader in your quest for your career or a quest for a certain vision, we should not lose the essence of family.
Yes.
Lose the essence of family. There are things that I wish I would have learned that a little bit earlier. It's not late, but to be honest with you, I would have done things differently. And now, knowing the impact that it has had on my family, and so on. So it doesn't, and my, Martin, it doesn't matter how much you have claimed in life. You get recognition nationally, in the community, and so on. If at the end of your assessment you think you have not done enough justice to those people that are dearest to you, you are going to feel unhappy.
You are.
So, when you think about it and you think about your family, I could have done more, to be honest with you. And I use the show openly to say that, because I know there are a lot of persons like myself in this quest to achieve and to I run with the school. To be honest with you, you come in the great transformation. Parents talk about it, the committee persons talk about it, and so on. Persons talk about it. But at the end of the day, when the dust settles, I said, I almost lose my family in that process.
Can I tell you, Calvin? I've been like on a mission with friends. One of them who's on here now, I've said it to recently, that you have to take the time out too, because if at the end of the day, and one of them was in the ministry, one of them was in the ministry that I said it to, and every time I call them or we communicate on the weekend, them tired, them still trying to finish this, they're still trying to get this done, they have to do this for this principal, they have to do it for that principal, and I'm like, no. And in, for lack of a more eloquent way to put it, I say, if you're broke down, if you're popped down at the people in your yard,
exactly,
depend on. You understand?
Exactly.
So rather than you trying to do the most, and if it all falls apart, the people at work won't be the people by your bedside making sure you're okay.
Right,
so you have to take deliberate steps. You have to take deliberate steps. You have to prioritize. You have to know when it is to just pull the plug. And I think sometimes our sense of responsibility gets the better of us, because we don't want to put it down, because we feel like we have to get this done. We have to get this next thing done. This is our responsibility, so we have to do it. The family can wait. This can wait. I can put that aside till later. And because
you have understanding, especially when your spouse is very understanding, when your spouse is understanding and share the same vision and so on. Because the thing about it is that my wife and we met at Michael, so of course same batch and so on. And so we end up at the same school, because I came here. She was a staff member here on leave and so on. So she's one of the teachers, a senior teacher, of course, a great supervisor and so on. She's one of those persons who will buy into the vision and know the amount of work that I have to put in. I think probably I probably should have recognized that in that also there should be time for her and the children.
Yes, and you're right. You're very right. You said something
that I have to make.
Yes, you said something just now, especially when they're understanding.
Yes,
because sometimes that goes very left, because they're understanding, so they will allow you, and because they allow you, you tell yourself it's okay to do. But even though they allow you, you still have to know where that line is. You still have to know where that line is. You still have to draw that line when it comes time to draw that line, because even though they're understanding, they still would have preferred you to be home with them. They still would have preferred for you to be doing the things that you need to do for their side of things as well, even though they're understanding.
Exactly. Well, you see, and then the thing about it, there are some things that time that has passed that cannot be regained. So, for example, my daughter, who is going to be 16 in September, and so on. I would have lost a lot of time, those years that I could have spent a little bit more time. So you're a good father, but when I said, I could have been a better father, and so on. You cannot get back those years. She's 16 now. You are going to be working forward. At 16, she's a teenager, and you're going to be there. But at the time when she was 7 and 8, that kind of relationship building and so on. How was that? That is lost forever, And so, and I want person to, and I say this because a lot of times, tomorrow is Father's Day, and I probably segue to that as well. But I want to understand that while we are in a quest for success, we ought to remember the persons that are closest to us. Those persons that, if success should go, it is pulled from under your feet tomorrow. They are the ones that will always be there.
They are. The most priceless thing to me right now, Calvin, the most priceless thing to me right now is having my daughter and my bonus daughter like still wanting to hang out with me.
Yes.
They still
Yes.
want to say, they say, so one of them calls me daddy. Actually, they both call me Mr. Martin now, because my daughter called me daddy. My bonus daughter called me Mr. Martin. Now they both call me Mr. Martin. So
Yes.
so my daughter calls me Mr. Martin now. So she says, Mr. Martin, can we play a board? One always wants to play a board game. Can we play
Okay.
a board game? Can we go here? Can we do this? And like we do things even earlier. We were all in one of my daughter's room. I'm ironing something, and the three of us are there, and we're laughing our heads off. We're talking, we're laughing, and that to me right there is absolute priceless.
Yes. Yes.
Priceless, because everybody tells you, oh, is a girl. Wait, there will come a time when she don't want to. Wait, there will come a time they don't want to hang out with you and this. And I heard that loud and clear. And I try to make sure I make a deliberate effort to spend time with them. There's certain
Right.
routines that we have that we do. There's certain things that we do together. You know what I mean? I've always been a board game player. My family, has always been. So we play. I taught them how to play Ludi. I teach them how to play dominoes. I teach them how to play all the things we grew up playing in Jamaica. But apart from the game itself, it is time spent together.
Yes, 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 yes. One of the challenges I have now is with the corona and this advent of the online space and online teaching. I am concerned for the teachers who are parents.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very concerned, because at my school, my staff is a fairly young staff. They're within my age, so they are in the childbearing age.
Right.
So most of them are children.
Mm-hmm.
And they are working so hard to ensure that the children that they have to teach get their best,
Right.
to the detriment of their children. And
They're
that's why
watching,
sometimes as a principal, I have to say, listen, make sure you make allowance for your children, and so on, because it's really difficult. I know I can use my home, for example. My wife is a teacher, and we have two small ones. One is 4, the other is 6. All of them are supposed to be on the online space, and she ought to be teaching. And all of them they are at the same schools, they're in Marlie Mount, and so on. Somebody's going to be left behind. And the teacher is accountable for the class, but you also bear in mind that more significantly is that the teacher is accountable, the parent is accountable to the child. So there must be that space for the children. And I'm very, very concerned, because we have been troubleshooting, trying to find ways and means to manage both the teacher being teacher and being parent at the same time, and so on. We have not worked out the formula for it yet, but right. I keep on saying to my teachers, make sure that you make time for your children, because that is very, very important. They will never forgive you, trust me. They'll never forgive you, if it is. And then, of course, you can't forgive yourself if it is that you evaluate and recognize that you could have done much more. So I would say within the context that I evaluate myself, a good father, good husband, but I could be better had I done things differently.
All right. And I can appreciate that my own self working way too many hours, I think. But hey,
yes.
At least we're aware that this is happening, and we're actively doing, and we have a couple happy Father's Day. Thank you guys for extending that to both of us.
Thank you.
And yes, absolutely, we're gonna try to bridge that gap to where the family never ever feel like they're getting the shorter end of the stick. Now, are there any upcoming project or milestones that are being worked on before we transition to the second section of the show here? Any upcoming projects or milestone that you're working on that you want to let us know about, Sir Harris?
Yes, we're presently working on, well, as you know, our school is a large school, so it's over 15, almost 1,500 children. So it's a large school. So even if it is that school reopens in September and it's going to be face-to-face, of which I know there's going to be this online space as well. What we are trying to do is that we are trying to work out our internet system to get an entire network so that we can go hybrid. So what we're planning to do is that we'll have some of our students here while the students are at home. So we'll split them in two groups. So the hybrid approach to learning. So what will happen? Another half will be at home, but they will be in tune at school. So that's through the internet. So
Nice.
what we're working on now is trying to get that in. We have an internet system, but it's poor. And that is going to cost us almost $1 million to get that in. And so that is one of our drive right now to get this system in place. Because what we'll have to do is that not only will we have to get the internet system in place, but we'll also have to make sure that we have laptops for our teachers.
Right.
And over the next 3 years, we're hoping that we'll phase in smart board in the classroom. So what we want to do each year is to put some smart boards in each classroom. So over a period of time, we'll have smart boards in the classroom. That's our major project. And there's another area that we need paving and so on, because the teachers don't really have a parking area because of what is happening. So we need that to be done as well. But I think first and foremost in our minds is to make sure that we get the internet system up and running for September, so we can go hybrid with our teaching and learning.
Excellent. You know what, Karen? It's just a pity. It's just a pity we're not all in the same place. I got the same vibe. I got the ssame feedback from the audience when I spoke to Frederick Latry, who is on here too.
Yeah.
And he's in Clarendon. You're in Old Harbor, and there's so many of us that are the same people we were when think about it. Think about how the reunion came together, and the persons we called on, their response when we called on them, and just the fact that we were able to just hit the ground running 20 years later, like no time had passed in between. You know, now think about if we were able to be in the same space as, like they say, iron sharpening iron. Where we could actually take this whole thing to a next level. It would be a thing to behold.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes.
It would be a thing to behold. All right, Christopher Reynolds, best up yourself, Christopher Reynolds, Rohan Thomas. Those are our peoples from the 163rd batch. And again, thank you for all the Happy Father's Day, for all the fathers that are viewing. Happy Father's Day to you as well. So we're at the point now where we're going to talk about the second section of I Lost My Friend. Every time he's messed with that, even before he went live, he knocked it off. All right, everybody, thank you for viewing. When he comes back on, I'll add him back. Thanks for viewing the Evelyn People Show today. If this is your first time viewing the Evelyn People Show, on account of you knowing our guest tonight, Mr. Harris, we have someone on every week. It's Mr. Harris this week. He's great. He's awesome. He's a good friend. But we have someone on every week that usually has something to add, something to offer. So you make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube so that whenever we go live, you can get the video. Even if you don't view it live, you can view it after. So like, subscribe, share, because the Even People Show, this is what we do on the Even People Show. And like I said, if this is your first time, we're about to go on to round 2. And my guest is back. Sir Harris, didn't I tell you to stop messing with it? Stop messing with the something. Every time you touch it, you knock yourself out.
For me, I didn't touch it, It just told me that it was overheating. I might have to change the device. So give me a second, I'll just change the device.
All right, I'm going to take you off. I'm going to take you off and wait. Okay. All right. Sir Harris is working out some technical difficulties, which happens from time to time. But like I was saying, on the Even People Show, we always have some guests that positivity is what you're going to get from them. If you do like and if you do subscribe to the YouTube channel, or we're friends on Facebook, you can go back to watching, Omar Tomlinson, who I had on a couple weeks ago, and he had a really good show as well. I had Natoya Perkins last week, who had a really good show. Next week, I'm supposed to have G. Cole himself. Y'all might not know who G. Cole is, but G. Cole is going to be a really good show. We have several really, really great shows lined up. Several awesome people that are going to come on to share, what drives them, what inspires them. One of the things that came out from last week, Christopher says this is his first viewing. Welcome, Sir Christopher. Kame is saying hello to you. I guess you guys know each other. Happy Father's Day to me. Who says that? Now, this is Magali. If I am not saying right, I pronounce it all for me so I don't butcher your name any further. But one of the persons I had on, the person I had on last week, I believe, was saying, how when they first took I think it was CXCs at the time, they failed all of them. Went back to Evelyn School, took them one at a time, passed them all, became a teacher, has now taught in Jamaica, in Japan, and in the United States, from having failed all your CXCs initially. And my takeaway from that was that if everything doesn't go your way in round one, get up, dust yourself off again, and go again. When I heard her story, I was inspired, because I'm like, wow. At some place along the way, I probably would have checked out, but she stuck with it and kept going until she got the result that she was looking for. Something she said her mom used to say a lot kind of guided her throughout a lot of that. Just like Mr. Harris himself here has his philosophy that he used to guide him. But yeah, we always have good stuff happening on the Evening People show. I'm just saying. Sir Harris, you ready? Give me a nod. All right, Sir Harris looks like he's ready. He's poised and he's back.
Yes,
Sir Harris.
Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
No, we're good. We're good.
Right,
I was just trying to keep everybody focused on the fact that I have you today, but I have somebody all the time, and the people I usually have on here usually have something to say, usually have something to share, and you can usually have a takeaway from it. All right. Going good so far, Sir Harris. Going good so far. Now, the second part of the show, for the first time viewers, we usually read some poetry. The poetry typically comes from my book back there, Love, Life, Confrontation, Expressions. So, Sir Harris, what are you going to be reading for the folks today?
All right, so the poem I'm going to be reading is Transition.
Transition.
Yeah, Transition.
Transition is a lovely poem. Whenever you're ready, sir, take it away.
All right. Frustration expressed with a pen, the absence of peace, the absence of zen. Insecurity in one's state of mind, question the motives of the other side. The sadness that persists, absence of laughter, absence of bliss, the silence that permeates, nothing said in this dormant state. The ever-fleeting clarity, confused by our own reality, saturated as with showers, one more inch and the flood devours. Retreating to calculate the sum, sourcing disturbance of my equilibrium, taking note of the areas of change, appraising that which remains, pondering each and every word, what's said versus what's heard, deducing the unspoken need, not of the giver, but of the one who receives. Anticipating resurgent to come, reanimating where it all began, changing the tactics to meet the goal, maintaining peace within one's soul.
Maintaining the peace within one's soul. Now, Sir Harris, very well read, sir. Very well read. Thank you so kindly.
Your poems, I want to read it properly.
You see, I can appreciate that. Now, here's the thing. This book has over 50 or about 60 original pieces of poem in it. You chose Transition. What was it about Transition that made this be the poem you decided to read today?
I think the word, the poem, the title of the poem itself grabs my attention. Mm-hmm. You know, thinking about a change, and I'm thinking about my life on a whole, moving from one end to the other. Life is always about transitioning from one end, wanting to another. And so when I read the poem, and particularly in the last couple, maybe the last year, since last March of last year with COVID entering and so on, there are a lot of changes, a lot of frustration, a lot of things that are happening. But it is a time for change, transitioning mm-hmm. from what it was to a new norm. And so it kind of jumped out at me. Mm-hmm. And,
now, are there any lines or concepts that are dealt with in the poem that speaks to you specifically? And if so, what lines and what is it for you?
I like the last part of it, the last 4 lines, where it says, anticipating the resurgence to come, reanimating where it all began. And the 2 last lines, changing the tactics to meet the goal. That part I like. Maintaining peace within one's soul. And I use that not just professionally, but personally, because I did share earlier, and of what I think would have happened personally as it relates to my life.
Right.
And I think about it, you have to re-emerge. You have to change your tactics to make sure that the goal of making sure that your family is first is achieved. And not only that, I'm thinking about what we have planned for Marlie Mount as a school. I think about it and I said, how is it? Because we would have had a plan before. But now that COVID has come and there's online learning, because initially we thought of wanting additional classrooms, enough classrooms for all our children to be here, because the school operates on the shift system. But even when we heard of the classroom, we got 10 classrooms and we would have needed more. But in our head, all we needed was additional classroom and everything was
a bigger physical space.
Physical space.
Right.
Physical space. Now that COVID has come and there's online learning, you have to broaden the picture now.
You need a bigger virtual space.
But how will you maximize the online space? And for me, I also think about, do we want to reach a point that we go back to the physical space only? I said, no. We ought to reach a point now where we are going to integrate the physical space with online learning. So online learning will never go away at Marlie Mount. And persons will have to make sure that they be a part of the system where online learning along with face-to-face are going to be working side by side.
No, and I think that's brilliant. I think that is the way forward. Like everybody has pointed out in the comments, how much of a visionary you are. I think that is the way forward. Why cater to 500 students physically in a school if you can cater to 1,000 virtually?
Exactly. But not only that, Martin. What I've recognized too, that you might have some teachers they are good teachers face to face. Good teachers face to face. You commend them. Good teachers face to face. Put them online and they are excellent teachers. What do? Pull back those teachers and put them back into the classroom to be good teachers? Or you maintain them in that space to be excellent teachers. Keep them there. I kind of get really excited about it because I can start thinking about some of these teachers that I know that they did well as classroom teachers, teaching in the physical space over the years. But Lord, they're gone abroad when they got online.
Yes.
And so on. And even some of the older teachers, they have grabbed onto it. They Google Classroom. They do. I mean, there's nothing that they can't do. And so I said, we have to cater for them. Why contain them by taking them back to school to say, all right, now that COVID, we have gotten the vaccine and so on, you can, now come back to school. Right. If we can accommodate them in the virtual space, we do that.
Why write on a chalkboard or you can't type on a message board, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes. I feel you. Now, take this. Now, that you referenced the what the lines that spoke to you specifically. Are there any lines or concepts that you think are applicable or relevant to the wider society or to people in general from this poem transition?
Yes, quite a few of them. The frustration expressing the absence of peace, the absence of calm, the first 2 lines that are there, insecurity in one's state of mind, question the motives of the other side, even in this context. COVID, persons are frustrated, persons are not sure of let me use, for example, the vaccine. Persons are, the whole idea, the advent of COVID itself is a big question. And even to this point, persons are not willing, they're questioning whether or not they should take the vaccine. So persons are in a state of apathy. Persons have lost their jobs due to the fact that there's downsizing and there's no work for them. So there's a state of frustration and confusion. There's a lack of peace among persons right across the board. They're not just Jamaica, right across the board, and so on. So, and sometimes persons question the motive of the government, question the motive of those, and some even question the motive of God himself,
True.
Why has God allowed this to happen? don't we do that sometimes? We ask the question, why is this happening? When will this change, and so on. The sadness that persists, the absence of laughter, the absence of bliss, the silence that permeates. Nothing is said in this dormant state. So those are really resonating, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I love this one, because it really speaks to what is happening currently, right across the world.
No, it's so funny you say that. You just said that it speaks so specifically to what is going on currently. What is the date that poem was written?
Where is the date?
Is it on?
No,
it's not there.
No, it's not.
Okay, I have it on mine. That poem was written March 28th, 2014.
Oh, so it's a futuristic poem, is it?
It is something. It is something.
So we can W. If you had stayed another day, you probably could have been a prophet. Yeah?
You understand?
That's what I was told. The person said, whenever you can predict it. One more day, you probably be a prophet.
It's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
When I read the poem, I see what is happening as relates to COVID and the challenges. Even within the classroom, the transition. Teachers had a warm time transitioning when they had to go on the online space, and all the training and all that they had to go through, the frustration that met them, the family challenges that they had.
But look at the next stanza, Calvin. Stanza 3, where it says the ever fleeting clarity.
What is the reality now? Because things will not go back to the same. This is the new normal, So things will never go back to the normal that we know. This is the new normal. So confused by this reality, in which in recent times they have closed the Scotia Bank in Old Arbor because everybody's going cashless.
Right.
We're going there. The future is cashless. How ready are people for that? It is a reality that is coming. And people are need clarity.
Right.
And then
and the next line too. The next two lines as well.
And look at it, Martin. Well, I tell you, say you're a prophet. I mean,
one more day, but
I need to get in my church, right? Saturated with showers, 1 more inch, and the flood devours. And they're coming fast and furious. So technology, you have the disease, you have viruses, all of those things, loss of job, everything. Just one more shower.
Yes. One more drip. What is it? A couple more drops, and the dam gonna break.
Yes.
Yeah,
and then the next line that speaks to retreating to calculate the sum, sourcing the disturbance, and that is more my line, because what I usually do, and even as I come on the show, I said, listen, if I'm coming to a show to have a show, it's not just to speak to the great, what is excellent, but a holistic Calvin. And so probably going on a tangent to say, yes, there could have been other things that I could have done. And the person says, oh, but you would say that. I think there is a time for reflection. And when I read the poem, there's a reflection. Calculating what is it that, what is missing? What is disturbing everything? Taking note of the areas of change. Appraising that which remains. Pondering each and every word. What is said
versus what is heard.
That is not everything that is said, And hearing doesn't mean that you hear, but that you observe, and that also guide you to,
So Calvin, I have a confession to make. I will make a confession. What if I told you that you are the 4th person to come on this show and do this poem? And nobody has the same interpretation of the poem.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You are. What if I tell you you know the other 3? What if I told you the other 3 were Amina Mosley Gordon?
Oh, that's Amina, my good friend.
Vice principal in New York.
Yes.
Norman Grant.
Oh yes, Norman.
Top chef at his university.
Yes.
Patrice Moore. Singer, songwriter, artist, musician, and none of them had the same interpretation of the poem. And today, when you said you wanted to do transition. Initially, I was going to say to you, transition has been done several times on the show. You sure? Or you sure no one picks something else? And I said, you know what? Let me look at it. And last, I looked over the previous shows last night, and I'm like, you know what? I think there's another direction we could go with this all together. And hearing you out the gate right now, taking it into a fifth dimension or a sixth dimension from where it went before, it's a totally different show, a totally different interpretation, totally different analysis and analogies that you're giving now of the same poem.
Yeah.
It's inspiring.
It speaks a lot about the writer, the author.
Well, you see, but here's the thing though. One more day, and I probably could have achieved really great things here.
I don't know what happened. She could have waited another day.
One more day, boy. No, I need to tell my mom next time. Wait one more day. Now, who would you recommend this poem for?
Well, just about anyone. I recommend to those persons within the education system. I recommend it to persons who probably going through frustration. For me, it's a poem that if it is that you read it, there's a form, as you do say, as you just said a while ago, that there are several interpretations to it and so on. Within this context, though, it's applicable for just about anyone at this time. Once a person is interested in poetry and is willing to look at it and see what it means to them.
Right.
That's my thinking on it.
Now, the narrator.
It's a very good poem, though. Very, very good poem.
Appreciate you, sir.
It is simple. It is simple, but it's very, very complex.
And for those who don't have, there's a bunch of those in the book, mate. You know what I mean? You got to check them out.
I know, don't I know? Oh, yes.
Now, the narrator seems to be using the poem as a tool. Now, what sort of tool? I'm asking you like two questions at once here. What sort of tool are they using it as? And what do you think they're hoping to accomplish with that tool?
Well, I think for me, I think the accomplishment is for some form of soul searching. For me, I think because based on when I read it, for me, it's kind of drawing me to do an introspection as to what is happening around me, and not just happening around me, but happening within me, and so on. So it's for me, it is really, and to be honest, I don't know if I want to use the word tool, but what I think the writer is trying to do is to get someone to look into themselves and just broaden the scope, not just looking to self, but looking at the entire society on the whole. And that's my thinking. I don't know if you had a special tool.
Hey, you're here for your expertise, sir. Yes. You're here for your very vast expertise. Yes, so if you say it's not a tool, it's for somebody to look inside, then that's just what it is.
Yes.
That is just what it is. Now, transitioning, changing, evolving is becoming increasingly important in our society, as you rightly pointed out. In your capacity as a pastor, principal, guidance counselor, neighborhood watch president, how would you say people are dealing with these transitions that are happening?
I think persons are, depending on what is it that you're transitioning into, but I think on the whole you can get the feel that quite a number of persons are in a state of apathy. There are persons who are not sure of what's going to happen next. There are persons who are confused, that type of thing, with all that is happening around us. I was just talking to someone the other day, an elderly person, and you just think about the elderly in particular, an elderly who has a passbook to go to the bank to check up on their money every month, or to see them write and stamp it and count their zeros in the bank. Will now have to go online to do that. Not all of them are capable of doing that. Not all of them are opening themselves to do that. And for them, they are thinking, what is this system trying to do? Is it trying to rob us? Is it trying to take away what we have? you have another set of persons. I think about our teachers who's doing a dynamic job of transitioning or from just this from the face-to-face to a virtual community,
Right.
a virtual space, a virtual learning space, and so on. They are initially, they were a little bit of resistance, and I probably want of a better word, but now they are now more open and more eager, and I'm speaking about my staff, more eager and more about this transition into this virtual space. So, my theme at the school is en route to a digitized learning community, the 21st century learner, and so
Right.
on. So persons are now making that form of transition and putting all the things that are necessary. We think about the community from which I'm from. Most of them are returning residents, they are elderly, and so on. They share their concern of mistrust as it relates to this transition to electronic, the technology.
Yes.
The technology as it relates to their funds.
A lot of people do. I had a show last week, Calvin, that exploded once I started talking about the vaccine and stuff. Once the topic came up, the comments were coming in so fast and furious, I couldn't keep track of them. It was just blowing up. But
and then again, finally, Michael, Martin, is the church community, you know, where it is that church is now is online. Persons would have dreamt that would have reached the stage where you don't have to be in church, and then all the churches would have been involved in the process of streaming live, so on. Do people still believe that this is and the question is still asked, is this a devilish move because people can't go in church anymore?
Right.
Physical church.
Right. Is the vaccine the mark of the beast? All these things.
Mark of the beast. Is the mark of the beast. But is it not an opportunity for the church to open? And it doesn't mean the physical doors and the windows, but physically open its space virtually so that more people can be reached. You send a link and entire household.
Enough church member, church funeral, anything. Somebody just give me a link. Look at us now. Look at us now. You're in Harbor, I'm in Orlando, and here we are.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, prior to maybe last year, or maybe I used up to last year, I probably didn't even know that this could have happened because we were not so up to speed with this kind of thing. So it kind of just propelled us into it.
Yeah, the learning curve kind of.
Ask the question: is this a devil's ploy for church doors to be closed? Is it? Is a question to ask. A person still asks that question, but church is still going on.
Church is still going on. All right, so Sir Calvin, is there anything else and this was a great show, like I told you it would be. Like I told you it would be, my good sir.
I'm just ready for the show. Realize that?
You see, I told you the same thing when I had Tanisha Baxter on here. She joined me from England, and she was so nervous before. And when we were done, and I closed out the show, her and I were backstage, and she was like, Martin, when can we do this again? You see, and that's where I see you going. Now, anything else you want to share with about the poem, about yourself, about upcoming projects, about Calvin Harris before I let you go?
I think if I'm going to be sharing, and I probably still speak on the merit of the poem and use it to kind of lay the basis, the foundation of challenging persons to always know when to make a transition. You cannot, I use the term stasis, being a stasis for a long time. It makes you become miserable. And I always say this to Martin, you see, if you're at a place for a certain period of time and you realize that you start to get miserable, you probably need to check your watch to see whether it's time for you to transition.
That's true, man.
And if it is that you're at a place too where you have become too comfortable, you need to check your watch also to plan if it's time to transition. You need a new challenge.
Yes.
And I use that in the background of the time when the Israelites were all right on the mountain, and they were eating food and everything.
Everything
And
nice.
God told Moses to tell them, listen, time to pack up. You need to
Pack
come down
up.
here. This you need to get off the
Road
mountain.
time now.
This is not the promised land. You were just here for a while. So, for me, you have to know when is your time. And some persons are locked in because at the time when they should have transitioned, they were afraid to, and they become so miserable and frustrated with the system or where they are. And I'm just talking about general right across the board. You have to know when it's your time. It's your time to move on. It's your time to take on a new project. It's your time to take on a new challenge. It's the time to get a new circle of people. Do you know that too? That there are times when you have to broaden your scope to have other persons around you so that you can, have more experience, reach your zenith or your fullest potential.
Yes.
You're at a particular stage and these people are with you for such a time as this. But there comes a time when you have to move on. Not that you're going to forget those persons, but you have to be in a bigger circle, Martin.
Yes.
So that your fullest potential, your self-actualization can be realized because you are rubbing shoulder with those who are seeing the vision that you are seeing. And for me, I think that's one of the things that persons sometimes are afraid to. But I probably say to anyone probably watching, and all of those who are probably watching us now, just say that never be afraid to take on a challenge and feel the tugging for a transition and take that walk. And this is where the walk of faith comes in, where sometimes you don't know where you're going, but you know your time has come.
Right.
And so on. I always believe, and I speak of this here at Marlie, and I say this to my teachers all the time, and I say to others all the time. I don't think I should be at an institution or anywhere in an organization for such a long time that persons will say, when will you leave? In a way that they want you to go.
Right.
You should always leave at that point where you will be remembered, for this is the mark that you have made. That's it. That's what.
When you go, they should recognize your absence because of the mark you had made.
Yes.
I concur. Sir Harris, it's been well to have you, sir. It has been well.
The time is up already, eh?
It has been well. I see. I told you.
And I'm not ready to talk.
I know you're ready, but we're out of time, my good sir. But it was Calvin. It was lovely. And I knew the show would have gone like this. I have always admired your insight. There are several times along the way, even as Pope, that I've sought your counsel.
Yes.
And I can say whenever I have needed you to jump in, you've always jumped in.
Yes.
And I can definitely appreciate even at the reunion when I couldn't find Pepsi.
Oh yes.
And I said, Calvin, you can't find Pepsi. I don't see it. I might need a preacher, and you're it. He said, no problem, Prezi. I got you. I got you. And thank you so much, my good sir. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to close out the show, but it was great to have had you.
Yes, it's great being here, and continue doing the good work that you're doing. Yes. Continue to impact lives. You have done that. You started at Michael, and you have not stopped. Keep on blazing the trail.
Blessings, my friend. Blessings. Take care.
And you're still leading.
Here you go. Yes. All right, folks. That's the ball game. I love me some Calvin Harris, boy. That man is the real deal. He was the real deal when I met him many moons ago. He is still genuinely the real deal now. And if you saw the show, you'd see why I like this man so much. He is the real deal, going and coming. I had a lot of new viewers today on the Evening People show. I thank you guys so much for having checked in. Like I said, if you're coming in via YouTube, like and subscribe and hit that little bell so that you get each time we go live, so I can have you being a part of the show. You don't have to know the guest personally. You just want to check in when you see something. Let me know your thoughts. And the Chronicles of a Black Man. I have a Chronicles of a Black Man Facebook page. There's links to the book in there. If you're in Jamaica, Fontana Pharmacy has the book there as well. And this is what we do here on the Even People show. Like I said, today it was Mr. Harris. Next week it'll be somebody else. The week after that it'll be somebody else. But we always come good where we come, right? I appreciate everyone Thank you for joining. If this is your first time, what you're going to learn now is that when it's time to go, I just go.